Marian Disabilities Conference. Health economics alone dictates the need for research to strengthen options in the provision of innovative, sustainable infrastructure for offenders with learning difficulties. Our recent seminar in the EU Parliament in September was represented by Germany, Italy, Ireland, Belgium. The United States were working with National University in the United States, which is a war veteran university. I'm going to talk a little bit about the stats there. And also Nepal, the Department of Health in Nepal is involved in the collaboration. And I can say I've actually spoke to the UK this morning, so hopefully the NHS will be willing or be interested in being involved in our Horizon 2020 EU research, working with young people with challenging behaviour. The target group includes children with unique challenges, including young prisoners with histories of self-harm and violence, including youth veterans whose health has been harmed by living in fear and threat. Young offenders post-traumatic from family violence. The research is looking at the treatment of violence, not the focus or justification of it, but the actual treatment of violence clinically. So young offenders can re-experience traumatic events. I know you all know this, and suffer chronic fatigue, irritability, and mental and emotional pain. Now, the origin of this work I'm talking to you about has its roots in the UK. I'll touch a little bit about that. But just about the EU research, we received a letter from the Secretariat Office wishing us a successful event. The Council of Europe point out, and they asked me to mention this at the conference, point out that recognising that children are bearers of rights, their role is in the protection of Europe's 150 million children. The Council of Europe has elaborated a number of standards relating to the promotion of health and well-being of children in vulnerable settings. And we will provide links to those reports if anyone would like them. The Council of Europe's Committee of Ministers adopted the recommendation of ensuring full inclusion of children and young persons with disability into society and impairment. A child cannot learn if they are living in fear or imprisoned in emotional, mental, or physical domestic abuse. I have a brief video, which I will touch on later on, very brief, outlining an integrated approach, working with the prison, medicine, and the courts with one unmanageable young man. The aim is to establish a basic pilot in EU countries in collaboration with the health service executives, departments of justice, and the universities in the pilot aspect, and including person-centred training for healthcare professionals. The training for healthcare professionals is in understanding how the forces of therapeutics may influence the neurobiology of aggressive and antisocial self-destructive behaviour, and to open up a knowledge in the tendency towards normalisation of behaviour. I just touch on a little on my background, and then I'll move on to this very quickly. I have my roots in I'm the secretary of the UK International Cranial Association, and I have my roots in a therapy called cranial osteopathy. I've worked in the UK prisons for over 16 years with a team of, it's not there now, I've been back in Ireland developing with a team of naturopaths, osteopaths, acupuncturists, and other natural medicine modalities, working with an integrated approach as a referral path. And I will just touch in a little bit on that as we progress the presentation. Now, this is the EU conference, which was chaired by Marian Harkin, MEP. She's an Irish MEP. Dan Neville, who is the President and Director of the Irish Association of Suicidology. Now, what I did want to touch in on some of the stats of suicide and self-harm. At that point, we have a problem in Ireland with suicide. I'm sure you also know that, or know this. The use of lethal self-harm has increased in the 15th to 18th age group in Ireland. And I'm sure I may be saying what you already know, but there was 123,000 presentations to hospital with self-harm, which constitutes an emergency situation. Now, that is the amount that has actually presented with the self-harm. At the moment, I'm leading scientific coordinator, bringing together a Horizon 2020 research call in promoting health and well-being in the young. I'm sure you've all heard of that too. I'll just move on. So, Professor Jack Hamlin, National University of California, just a little bit about those stats. This came out at the conference. There was 2.8 million troops deployed for protection to Iraq and Afghanistan between 2001 and 2010. 50% of the military deployed was under the age of 25 years. So Professor Hamlin was mentioning at the conference that every 65 minutes a military veteran commits suicide in the United States. So daily, that's 22 per day. So while I'm talking here, one will have gone. It equals almost one a day. And as we say, 50% is under the age of 25 years. Within the collaboration, we have Paolo Roberto di Sarcina. He's medicine and surgery, and he's a specialist in psychiatry and person-centered training. What that is that the staff that's working with the problem is getting some support, intensive support, to work on themselves, to work with the patients they're working with. We also have Dr. Karpi from Nepal, the Department of Health in Nepal. In Nepal, the health is focused towards well-being. So they're very interested in being involved. And Europe, the EU research, Horizon 2020, facilitates international collaboration in the research. We also have the project. One of the project coordinators was previous head of childcare services in Ireland, assistant head of the HSE. And we've Professor Horan, which is School of Nursing, Midwifery, Trinity, also trains psychiatric nursing, so he's involved. The service provision plan we're working together is to meet the specific needs, to maximise, and what other speakers have spoke of today, it's almost like synchronistic thinking, to maximise the recovery potential. This is for young offenders with chronic home early stress and parents who have no control, enabling mental health deterioration, and violence-centred families who distort and obstruct child development, youths with challenging behaviour, temper tantrums, violent outbursts, chaotic lives, dysfunctional families with histories of hard drinking and drug abusing parents, young people with histories of institutionalised care and imprisoned sentences or abuse histories. And again, included in the research will be person-centred training for healthcare practitioners. Now I'm just going on to a particular case. I wanted just to give you an idea of how we've worked. This young man, I've got a brief video at the end of this young man. He had 150 charges. There was an article in the paper asking, they were going to send him over to you actually. They were looking to send him to the UK. So nobody knew what are we going to do with him. So it was at that point, I hadn't seen that article. At the time I was working, our approach in naturopathic medicine is, it's not symptomatic based, but we can work with that. We were working with outreach with in a community, dysfunctional, deprived community of battered women, battered mothers. And at the end of the clinic, he walked in the door and sat down. It wasn't even, it was clinic for the women. And he was the son of one of the women there, and he sat down and he said, I have a problem with anger. He'd actually punched his hand through a window and refused to get medical help for it, but one of the nurses on our team managed to persuade him to go down to get it seen to. So this is his court order. We refused to see him in the community. I have pushed over the years, we need a high support unit in which they're really told you can do 6 months here, or you can do your 6 years or your 5 years or whatever it is in prison. So we agreed to take therapeutic responsibility and work in collaboration with the prison system, but under certain conditions. I said we wouldn't accept management of him in the community. So the court gave an order that the team worked with him in the prison, because that is how we'd worked previously in the prisons here. And it worked very well because it provided a support for prisoners who felt safer in prison, safer against their own self-destructive tendencies. That's his, we blurred it deliberately, obviously, for confidentiality. That's his medical record, or a referral. We won't work unless it's in an integrated approach with the medical team. So we accepted the referral. We seen him for 16 weeks, but he needed a lot more. And this was his management. Previously, we've worked with a rolling programme Monday to Friday within the prison system, and 20 prisoners moving right through pre-admission aftercare. And we would look at everything, but from a natural medical perspective or osteopathic perspective, we would say structure governs function. They can be saying anything, but we would say unless there's balance and symmetry, and then there's the function is you can't manage them just psychologically. We worked as a team with the psychologists, but we would say if there's a cranial fault or a musculoskeletal fault, or if their diet was wrong, then that structure is not going to function. And we would say that's non-negotiable, that's the situation. He can't read nor write, so he gets frustrated and he expresses himself with his fist. So that's post his treatment. Now, what I would say to anyone, again, working with somebody this damaged, it doesn't mean this works and it's a process. Anyone who's given up smoking, you do relapse, and it's with the damage that this particular person has had, it's a period of time, and it's to make him less aggressive, and little by little we start to bring it around. Oh, this is the next seminar in the EU Commission in Dublin, our next one in April. I met after the previous seminar. I got an email from the EU Mental Health Commissioner and asked me for the report. I'm trying to put it together at the moment, but I had a meeting with him. We've been there a couple of times, and I said, how do we move this forward? So we said, you've got to push for local and regional collaboration. So this next one is the Oireachtas Committee has said yes, go ahead with your pilot. So the next step is to meet with all the councils. We're willing to do the work, but we say they have to participate in some way and get involved. So this is the next step for the EU research, and it'll be the first meeting of the collaboration for the partnership. We've got plenty of time because we've been preparing for this for 4 years, and the call only came out a couple of months ago. So that's some of the team coming together for April. These are links which we can make available, some of the EU interviews, and also the Oireachtas Committee presentation regarding the suicide prevention within the prisons, programs within the prisons, and we're pushing for it everywhere. That's my contact, or our contact, and person-centred training. We're really at heart hill walkers. It's all part of the training for practitioners that they undergo a complete process themselves to have some understanding of, to feel really well at some point, working with disturbance at that level. If you're working with an offender like the video I'm going to put on now, you really have to protect yourself in some way. So this is how we do it. I do a lot of climbing and walking in the mountains, so you have to come back to yourself with this work. I want to put on a video now, so there are a couple of videos, and you spoke about autism. I can always give you links to that, how we worked with a self-harming child banging her head against the wall. We couldn't talk. Is that the right one? No, I don't think that's it. Oh, yeah. So, Danny, I wanted to ask you, how many charges or convictions or
previous convictions of over 150 previous convictions.
So you have a problem with anger? Why is that?
Problem with my father shot dead. It was when I was 12 years of age, and going on that.
That left you angry?
Well, I was boxing. I was still boxing, and my fight coming to the Dublins, the last fight, my father shot dead 4 weeks before that fight.
When he was murdered, you went out from home?
Well, when he was murdered, I was aiming big, but my father's aiming big for me, because I lost all them fight that day, but when I wouldn't lose it, he was alive, because there was no book in that head. But then,
so Danny, have you been on the receiving end of violence yourself?
I've been stabbed 22 times altogether in my whole life. I've been in prison for most of my life since I was 15.
Have you been in hospital?
I've been in hospital a few times, I think friends was killed in the car crash me.
So you've had a lot of tragedy and trauma. Why have you applied to us?
I came because I don't know, I changed this person here.
What made you change?
Just didn't care what you were at all. Like, I was trying to make a name for myself at 19 years of age. I got fairly straight from jail, but when you came along, 12 months, I think it was 13 months into my sentence, when I started doing a program, in the room, when I came out of prison, my temper went down. And like, there was no more fight or attention, or I wasn't looking on my shoulder, I was grabbing home. The thing was me good.
So do you feel the program's helping?
I feel, because it's been 4 years, I have picked up on the church. I've been took in on a lot of things, but the guys just
I know you've had a reason.
the guys just give me a hard time because of my family's past.
Well, you've still issues to deal with.
I still have issues to deal with.
But you've had an outburst recently which we're looking at working on. So what do you want to do in life?
Well, I want to work with like, I want the family, I want to be my son, my daughter, I want to be able to do it. And I want dinner, that's all they care for me.
And do you think this program could help?
Yes, it helps with it. It takes all that badness on me. It takes all that, not badness, but that I can let things slide on my mind. I mean, I can.
Can you give me an example of that? You talk about bus driving.
Well, I felt like grabbing the bus driver and something got to my head. Like, and that's something I'm not going to do. I mean, I hit him. I don't know, I couldn't. I got blank. It was like a blank screen in front of me. You know what I mean? And, but I thought and I was turned around and walked out.
So you just had to say no?
Oh, yeah, I was
saying
no, yeah.
Right. So do you think other young people that need the program?
Oh yeah, definitely. Just people like me and they understand, like, I talk to them.
Are you willing to look at your part in it and
I want to live. If I lived this life, if I went down that road again, I would live to see that too.
So you're willing to work for your survival?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I was employed since 2002. Onwards, like half that population that was dead. We were all shut dead. All gang members, scrubs out of the ship. No, they're all dead. They're all made. Amen. So, that was it.
Oh no, I went. Yeah. Yeah. All right, that's fine. All right, thank you. Again, I just would like to thank you for inviting me today. And if there's any questions, we've got a couple of minutes.
Hi, I was just really interested where you got your funding from for something that intense.
We've had some little lottery money. The community too. We've got quite a bit of support. The community. We're a voluntary organisation on the charity register. Early stages, you know. But there's also the service level agreement, you know, to get them. At the moment, I'm the CEO. But this is 2 lifetimes. The last one was this was the Home Office. This is my previous work in the UK prisons. So I've got another one off the ground, and then we'll just let it fly. You know, we're nearly there now. So at the moment, the EU collaboration is marvellous because I'm working with this one. I had a team of 200 volunteers in the UK prisons. and this was in 98 that this research came out by King's College Hospital, and they asked for further research. But I went back to, I was working in the community in Ireland. Now the further research is coming. I've brought it to the table again, and I've got the, whereas I worked with the practitioners before, now it's all the Academy of Osteopathy, all the big European bodies. It's just come together synchronistically. And what I just might say to you also, this may interest you, most of the people we've synchronized with, there's been no set-up meetings. I've met them, I've passed them, and I met actually the National University in California. I met him sitting having tea where that picture was in Glendalough. He was there with his fiancée, and he spoke to one of my team. We were doing a big walk, and I just mentioned somewhere. I said, "There's a nice place you can see there." So he said, "What do you do? What do you do?" And we just said, "We're the suicide prevention team. We're on that would be our we go for a walk. We do a 10-mile walk, and that would be our staff meeting. One of them, and go out for lunch, that type of thing." So it was one of those, and he said, "Oh, he's forensic medicine and law," and from there the university has stepped in, and the same thing has happened with almost every one of the other ones. We've just met them by chance, walked by them while we were doing something else. So it's a synchronistic process. And what I noticed today too, to 0202, and there's 22 a day die, Do you know these links? There's links there. Do you know what I'm saying? So this has happened naturally. There wasn't me. It's the purpose of intentionless motive. There's no me saying I want him to behave himself. If I was to think like that, I couldn't work. We just work at the structure, and then we'll see what happens, Although the research we are looking at, it will be full assessment. All the medical workups, everything is that's been built into the EU research. Full psychiatric assessment, full psychological assessment. So everyone has been involved in the research. And there's a process of well-being, intervention, and then the outcome. Sorry, have I answered your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Any more questions? Thank you, Marian.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.